Welcome back to the Mad Genius Thesis, where we kind of like unpack this whole idea of creativity and mental illness.
Yeah, it's one of those questions that keeps coming back, right? Like, are brilliant minds somehow driven by their struggles, or is it more like fighting separate battles?
This time around, we're looking at Charlie Bird Parker, undeniably a genius, but man, his life was tragically cut short. Addiction, personal demons, the whole bit.
And we've got a fantastic guide for this deep dive, Chuck Haddock's biography, Bird, The Life and Music of Charlie Parker. It's full of firsthand accounts, stories you wouldn't believe. It really puts you right there in Bird's world.
Okay, so get this, right from the start. Haddock throws this at you. 1937, 17-year-old Charlie Parker just been in this near-fatal car crash. I'm talking broken ribs, fractured spine, the works.
Ouch. Yeah, you'd think that'd put a stop to things, at least for a while.
Exactly. You'd expect some serious downtime, recovery, but not Bird. He comes out of this accident, musically speaking, even stronger, like something unlocked, some hidden potential because of the trauma.
That's a really interesting idea, right? Trauma as a fuel for creativity. Some neuroscientists believe it could be tied to actual brain chemistry changes or how memories get processed. Wild stuff.
So was this accident like a turning point for Bird? Did it, in a way, contribute to Bebop, his revolutionary musical style, coming to be?
It's a question worth asking, for sure. But to really get Bird, his journey, we need to rewind a bit, go back to where it all began.
All right, so back we go to 1920s Kansas City, a city jumping with jazz, but also dealing with huge social divides, racial tensions, all of that.
That's the backdrop for Charlie Parker's life right there, born and raised in it. You can almost hear it, those late-night sessions on 12th Street, the smoky clubs, young Charlie soaking it all up.
Haddock doesn't shy away from Bird's family life either. It's a mixed bag, love and hardship, all rolled into one.
Mom, Addie, totally devoted to Charlie, but Dad, Charles Sr., battling alcoholism, often absent. And then there's Ike, the older half-brother, their relationship, complicated. Mix of affection and resentment all at once.
So you've got young Charlie, already a musical prodigy, navigating this family situation in a city that's practically exploding with musical energy. Can you almost see it already? The brilliance, but also the seeds of his struggles being planted right there.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of brilliance, Haddock tells the story about Ernest Daniels, a drummer, friend of Charlie's. He remembers Charlie practicing saxophone late into the night. Even as a teenager, the dedication was there.
Like obsessed, even back then.
Almost, yeah. Daniels describes it as being possessed by the music, driven to master the instrument, the practice. It was almost an obsession.
And this wasn't just messing around either. By his mid-teens, Bird's already joined the Musicians Union, playing gigs at legendary places, Paseo Hall, for example.
Gets married at 16, too. Talk about jumping right in.
Wow, that's early. You think it was love or maybe a need to get away from all the family stuff, break free?
Hard to say for certain, for sure. But it does point to something, a restless spirit, maybe a desire to break away from the norm.
Which brings us back to that 36 car crash. We talked about the injuries, but it's the change in his playing afterward that's really something.
Weeks recovering in the Ozarks, isolated, just him and his music. Some folks say this period of intense practice, woodshedding as they called it, that's what really shaped his style.
So you're saying being forced to lay low like that, it might have been a blessing in disguise.
It's a possibility, right? No distractions, pure focus on the music, might have allowed him to push boundaries in a way he couldn't before.
And this is about when he gets the Yardbird nickname, isn't it?
Right on the money, shortened to Bird later, which, when you think about it, how is music just soared? Kind of fitting, isn't it?
But unfortunately, this is also when we see another side of Bird emerging.
Heroin addiction starts up, fueled by, well, how easy it was to get in Kansas City at the time. It's a shadow that just hangs over his whole career.
Like a reminder that even as Bird's becoming a star, he's already got these demons he's wrestling with.
And I gotta remember, back then, addiction wasn't understood like it is now, treatment. Even less so.
So here we have this incredibly talented but troubled musician finding his voice, but his demons are right there with him.
And this is just the beginning. Next time, we follow Bird to New York City, where he's going to spark a musical revolution and face those struggles head on.
When we left off, Bird was like on the edge of something huge, about to turn the jazz world upside down, right?
Yeah, early 1940s New York City, it was buzzing, so much innovation. And Bird, he was drawn to it like magnetically.
Lands right in the middle of the bebop explosion, places like Minton's Playhouse, jamming with giants, Dizzy Gillespie, you name it.
Okay, try to picture this. You're at Minton's, smoky, everyone's waiting, anticipating, and then Bird steps up saxophone like an extension of himself, fingers flying.
This wasn't the jazz people were used to. This was fast, unpredictable, the harmonies so complex.
Like a whole new musical language.
Yeah.
And not everyone got it, not
And
Bird.
critics, some musicians even, they found it jarring. Dissonant, some even said disrespectful to what jazz was supposed to be.
But for others, it was a revelation, like a breath of fresh air, right? Pushing the boundaries what music could be.
And Bird was at the center of it all, pushing his instrument, his own creativity, to the limit.
But, as we know, those demons, they weren't far behind. Addiction got worse in New York, started affecting his, everything.
Haddix mentions missed gigs, showing up late, even fights with other musicians. It's all there.
Classic story, right? Genius, but self-destructive. The brilliance is undeniable, but so is the tendency to sabotage himself.
It makes you think, was there a connection? The genius, the destructive behavior, two sides of the same coin.
Tough question. But you can see how the intensity that fueled the music, maybe it fueled those demons too.
Still, even with the drama, Bird's career, it took off. Played with the biggest names, made groundbreaking records, toured internationally even.
A true innovator, no doubt. His influence on generations of musicians, it's massive.
But even at the top, consequences caught up with him.
1951, his cabaret card revoked, banned from playing in New York City clubs. Can you imagine?
Wow, that's got to hurt, right? Barred from performing in the city. That, in a way, made him...
Devastating blow, for sure. Both professionally and personally.
And then, 1954, tragedy hits hard. Bird's daughter, Pre, dies suddenly.
Sends Bird into a tailspin, even deeper despair.
Unbearable pain,
And it's impossible to separate that. The personal loss from the addiction, the mental health struggles, it's all intertwined.
This is like the final chapter now for Bird. Incredible creativity, but so much suffering.
There are attempts at sobriety, fueled by love for Chan, his partner, their kids, wanting to be better.
But addiction, it's a powerful force.
Bird's health, it deteriorates fast. And in 55, at only 34, he's gone.
Life cut tragically short.
Yeah.
But the legacy, it's still with us, inspiring and, haunting, even now.
It really makes you think about the power of the human spirit, but also the fragility of genius. The toll addiction takes, it's devastating.
So where does this leave us? Our exploration of the Mad Genius idea, did Bird's struggles fuel his art? Or were they separate battles fought alongside his music?
We're going to keep digging into that as we look at Bird's music, those final years. What they tell us.
It's hard not to think about it, Bird, gone so young. It really makes you think about how fragile genius can be, how much addiction can take from a person.
Yeah, it's a tough ending to a story that had so much brilliance, but so much pain too. And it just leaves you with so many questions.
Like that connection, or maybe lack of it, between creativity and mental illness. Was it Bird's struggles that fueled his genius, or were they separate battles he fought his whole life alongside the music?
It's easy to get caught up in that tortured artist idea, right? But it's way more complicated than that, much more nuanced.
Exactly. We can't diagnose Bird now, and it's not really fair to use today's ideas about mental health on someone from back then.
But even without labels, you can see it, right? So many things Bird did, they line up with what we know about mental health struggles. Impulsive behavior, mood swings, and of course the addiction.
Haddix doesn't shy away from that at all in the book. He shows you the whole person, a man struggling, but also creating this incredible music.
Which brings up another question, doesn't it? Did Bird's music, was it an outlet for him? A way to, take all that turmoil inside and turn it into something beautiful, something transformative?
Yeah, like the saxophone, it was how he expressed all these feelings, emotions he couldn't put into words.
That's a really powerful way to look at it. Makes you think about how art, in general, can help us deal with tough stuff, process those experiences.
And even though Bird's life was cut short, his music, it still speaks to people. It's like a reminder that genius, often, it doesn't come easy. There's a price to pay.
And those who create beauty, they often do it while fighting their own battles, inside.
Bird's legacy, it's complicated. Just like he was a visionary and amazing artist, but also a flawed human being.
But that's what makes it so fascinating, right? And his music, it just keeps resonating with people because of that.
It reminds us that even when things are tough, even dark, the human spirit, it can still soar.
Like Bird's music, above and beyond what jazz was supposed to be. Pushing boundaries, inspiring so many others.
So taking it all in, this deep dive into Charlie Parker, What do we take away from it?
Maybe it's that genius that doesn't happen in a vacuum. It comes from experiences, pain, joy, the whole mix of what it means to be human.
And sometimes the things that make us vulnerable, those are the very things that give us strength.
Bird's story, it encourages us to really appreciate how complex people are. The light and shadow, it's all there in everyone.
And to listen to music, knowing more about the artist, their story, the struggles, the triumphs, it all adds another layer.
So next time you hear Bird, really listen to it. Feel the emotion, the creativity, that push to the edge. It's all there in the music.
And let it remind you of how powerful human expression can be. The legacy of a troubled but brilliant soul, it lives on.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Mad Genius theory. It's always a fascinating conversation.
We'll be back soon, exploring another mind, at that crossroads of creativity and mental illness. Until then, keep the music playing.